Hi, I'm Dr Nat Rowe. I'm a consultant forensic psychiatrist at Heathers Lodge Low Secure Unit, and also the Deputy Medical Director for Quality and Safety. As part of that role, I've also got involvement in a number of QI work streams, including being the lead for the Restrictive Practice QI Collaborative. So the Quality Improvement Collaborative for Reducing Restrictive Practice started formally was launched in March of this year, but we actually started working on it probably about a year ago now. So over the last year, we've really built a collaborative from scratch, and that's involved thinking about the infrastructure that we needed in terms of communication and setting up kind of document storage systems and so on. We've also recruited 14 teams from inpatient wards across the organisation who are all part of the collaborative. We've worked really closely with the QI team to try and get as many people as possible trained, and that's not only within the project teams themselves, but that's also a whole load of new QI coaches, some of which had done some QI before, but a lot of people haven't actually done any QI before, so they've been really valuable in kind of learning on the job as QI coaches. I guess the other bit is that we've also brought what the good work that we were doing in the positive and proactive care panel over into the collaborative, and we've used those to build probably about 15 different change packages based on the evidence that we'd collected over the last 4 years of ideas and evidence-based strategies for reducing restrictive practice. So I think clearly the COVID challenge has been there, and I think that's been massive. I think that's really had an impact on everybody's time, and also the ability to take a step back and put the thinking into planning this collaborative, given that we've never done this before in this organisation. I think another challenge has been trying to support people to access the training. So I think lots of people have been really enthusiastic about using QI and getting involved, and they've also been really enthusiastic about reducing restrictive practice. I think most people agree with both concepts. That the challenge has been then trying to get people released from their day work long enough just to learn some of those strategies so that then they can put them into practice. We've had really good support from IHI, the Institute of Healthcare Improvement, in terms of giving us lots of advice about how to set up a collaborative. So although it has been really challenging, and we've often felt quite out of our comfort zone, we've had really regular support from them. So that's been really, really helpful. I think the main success from the collaborative point of view is that when we had our last learning set recently, which was in September, we've been able to have 6 months worth of data now, which we've collected from the wards that are involved in the collaborative. And what we've seen consistently across the wards that are involved in the collaborative is a really convincing, clear downward shift on the run charts in terms of the use of rapid tranquilization, seclusion and restraint, and that's not just on one ward or just for a couple of months. That's been a consistent appearance now across wards, but also across the different restrictive practices. I think the second success is that people have stuck with it. So at our QI coach training day yesterday, when we actually were able to come together for the first time in person, I think what was really noticeable is that everybody's had challenges in terms of trying to meet up with teams and trying to create time to do this, but everybody's stuck with it, which I just think is fantastic. So given where we were a year ago, where there was absolutely no collaborative at all, and given where we are now, I just think that's a massive success. I'm also really looking forward to see how the data progresses over the next 6 months. But I'm also really looking forward to more qualitative feedback and more of the narratives and the stories as people get more involved and see QI working. I think that's the real excitement for me when people see how this works and feel the difference. You can't then not do it, because it really fosters that enthusiasm and that energy. And as we know from other people around the country and around the world, once you get it and you've seen it working, you can't ever then go back to not doing it, I think.
So I'm Jeremy Rampling. I'm one of the consultants in the Women's Service at Ardenley. For those who don't know Ardenley, who are within the Trust, we're Women's Secure Care. It's a blended service now, but traditionally it's been a medium secure service. By the nature of our service, we do get ourselves involved in a lot of restrictive practice, unfortunately. I think I'm right in saying that Ardenley reports the most incidents in the Trust, and it feels like it's almost a daily occurrence here in the building. So with that comes opportunities, and with that comes expertise, of course. And I think it's certainly one of those things that the more that you do, the more sophisticated your approaches to restrictive practice are. So I have to say that our ward staff, on the whole, are absolutely fantastic in the way that they respond to cases and apply restrictive practice when they have to. I think one of the important things that we have learned to do here in this building and in this service is anticipate as much as we can and plan ahead. We work with our women here in some cases for many, many years, so we know them really terrifically well, and we can understand their warning signs. We can bring them into their care plans. We can modify the kind of restrictive practice that we have to apply when it's necessary for reasons of safety. And very much incorporate the women's views as much as we can into that process, because we know that a lot of what we do in inpatient psychiatric care is problematic. A lot of it is traumatizing. In some cases it's dangerous, and we have to understand that experience from the patients group and make sure that we're doing things right. We're a trauma-informed service, of course, and so we do think very much about what the experience is for our women, how that factors into their previous life experiences, and try and bring their views into how they would like, where possible, their views to be respected within restrictive practice. The kind of things that we're talking about here in Ardenley, we do use a lot of seclusion, and there are regular kind of daily instance of restraint. But as I say, our staff are very experienced in what they do, and I think generally manage situations, really tricky situations, extremely well. I'll say from the perspective of the staff group, I think it can be really difficult to work in an environment where there is a lot of restrictive practice. None of us go into healthcare because we want to be restraining or secluding or administrating rapid tranquilization to our patient group, but it is a necessary and at times therapeutic intervention that we're delivering. Obviously, for a variety of reasons, we want to be reducing the frequency of restrictive practice, and that's fundamentally to make the environment a kinder and more therapeutic environment. We'll never exclude restrictive practice entirely, because that's the nature of the environment that we work. But the more that we can do, the better we can make the environment, and the better that we can best outcomes we can make for our patient. Well, I think everyone thinks about traditional methods for phrasing a service, kind of analysing what goes on in a service. I think some of those methods, if we think about things like clinical audit, there's definitely a role of clinical audit. I've been involved in some very successful clinical audit projects, but if you're not asking the right question, you can easily get caught up in a meaningless project. And I've seen a lot of projects that really don't go anywhere in spite of all the effort, because at the beginning people haven't realised that the question that they've asked hasn't been quite right, and then you don't really have the scope within the project to adjust the question or adjust what it is that you're doing in order to incorporate the things that you've learned while doing the project. QI is obviously very different to that, and that's one I think QI's great strength, is that you're constantly re-evaluating what it is that you're doing. You're making your adjustments here and there based on what you're learning on the job in the project, and I think the ideal, and I think this is probably right, is that QI then allows you to ensure that your project maintains a clinical relevance or a relevance to what it was that you got into the project to try and do. Or I suppose alternatively, it may be that it opens up new eyes to other solutions that you want to be creating. I think the fact that you're bringing intervention at the beginning of the project, and then you're assessing how your intervention is running, and you're constantly modifying that, but you're potentially seeing results early in the project, I think is helpful. I think that keeps people motivated and keeps people engaged. So I mean, this is my experience. I have to say I don't have extensive experience of working in QI projects, but this is my experience to date of some of the strengths, I suppose, and thinking about our current projects. We're very itching to sort of progress, very keen to progress with this intervention that we've got, and we've hit a few obstacles, and that's just the nature of working in a complex system like ours. But I think we're all really enthusiastic about bringing this intervention on the ward and tweaking and modifying. We've already made some modifications even prior to really the first introduction, but we're really keen to see